Pleasant good morning, colleagues. A pleasant good morning, colleagues. Welcome and thank you all for attending this first in our series of staff development series of workshops. So this morning, we are discussing customer care in the time of COVID. This, we believe, is an aptly named title for the times we're living in. If someone had told us last year that phrases such as work from home, virtual, or remote service delivery were currencies we'll be using today, we probably would not have believed, but here we are 2 years on. Let me recognize that we have representation from all categories of staff, academic, admin, technical, and service staff, and also to extend a special welcome to our colleagues from the WJC. This workshop is an effort to ensure that we're equipped with the skills, tools, tips to deliver on our promise to exceed the expectation of our students and stakeholders in relation to service delivery. Colleagues, it is a pleasure to introduce to you our facilitator for this session. Dr. Crick is a senior lecturer in the Mona School of Business and Management. In addition, she's a trained trainer and facilitator. Her areas of expertise include organizational behavior, tourism, and service. Each year, Dr. Crick trains a cadre of undergraduate and undergraduate students in organizational theory and design and quality service management. In addition to training students, Dr. Crick has an extensive record of training corporate executives and private and public sector employees in ethics and risk management, to name a few. To know Dr. Crick is to know that service is her brand. I'm not sure how many of you will recall that back in 2008, Dr. Crick was Associate Dean for Client Care. In one of our monthly newsletters, she gave us this charge: everything speaks. Let's pay careful attention to what we communicate in words, appearance, and attitude to all our clients. During her tenure, she assisted the faculty office and department to develop customer service feedback forms, one of which we still have today, and that is to catch them doing something right. Still on our website today. Dr. Crick also introduced Mystery Shopping, which was geared towards measuring our performance on the service standards that we had set for ourselves. I recall that colleagues would already run to our office to say, pick up your phone if they heard the phone ringing for more than four times, because it could be another mystery shopper on the line. She needed facts to determine the areas in which we were falling short. So if service is our brand, then evidence-based research is our style. When I first approached Dr. Crick to deliver this session a month ago, she accepted without hesitation. She, however, had one request. She needed staff perception data so that she could tailor the presentation to your needs. She designed a questionnaire, which we then circulated. Colleagues, it is a privilege to have Dr. Crick leading this charge as we navigate another semester of uncertainty, with the only constant being the expectation of our students and stakeholders. And what they demand are quality and consistency in customer care. Colleagues, join me in welcoming Dr. Crick. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was a great walk down memory lane, to be honest. I forgot half of those things. So
yes.
Wonderful to be able to recall. And now I know I'm so tired. I did a lot, but it's always a joy to do things for my faculty, because yes, customer service is my passion. Customer care is really, really important to me. So as Stephanie said, we're going to be talking about customer care in the time of COVID. So one of the things I like to do at the onset is to manage expectations. So first of all, I want to say to you that it is a working session. So you should put on your work hat. I do have some data and guides to guide you, but I am not going to be giving you a lot of tools and so on, because I really do believe that most of us already know what good customer service is, because the beauty about customer service is that we are customers and we are servers. So all of us know the customer experience. We know what we like, we know what we don't like. So therefore, the um, golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, is really very, very applicable for 90% of customer service. Now, there are some details that we would want to add and enhance, but in general, we already know. So what is the problem? In motivation, we say ability and willingness. It's about the willingness. So that's the part I'm going to focus on today. So that's the first thing I wanted to share with you. Of course, please mute your mics. We have all experienced what happens when we don't. And I'm asking you to participate, because the word I always associate with myself is interactive. So I'd love for us to be talking, to one another. It works better if you have the raise hand function. So please, use that if you can find it. But if you can't find it, don't let that be a deterrent. Just jump on in. But it goes for better order if you have it. And then the final thing I want to share with you, please be engaged. This is your session. I have certain things I want to get through, but in the end, it's about what your needs are and so on, and how well we interact. So I'm not going to just, rush through just to cover what I have in mind. So I really am looking forward to your engagement, colleagues. It's a short session, so let's see what we can go through. Keisha, I'm going to need you very shortly. So, guys, this is a picture I took very recently. And I am going to do our first interactive, like I said, it's a workshop. So you're going to work. And this will be a quick one. In about 3, or I think I'll give you 4 minutes, I would like you to tell me a story about this picture. So I'm sure we all have our phones nearby. So I would suggest that you take a picture of the picture so that you could refer to it. Tell me a story of this picture. What does it say to you? These are the things that you're going to be talking about. What does this picture say to you? As you could see, there's a lot going on. And then how can you apply it to customer service? So right now, I'm not sure how many people we have online, but when we go online, and then, I'm not sure how many people we have online, but when you go into your groups, you'll have a group of people from, because we're doing it randomly, different faculties, different departments, and so on. I'm going to encourage you to just use that diversity. So it's 4 minutes, and Keisha, we could start now with the breakout groups, and I'll just put the questions in the chat for anybody who forgot what they are already. All right, so 4 minutes, be very creative, everyone.
Shit. I don't know how to get the picture in here because this is Zoom and I could have sent it on WhatsApp. But I have all your numbers, but you're using it for Dr. Cole. Let me send it to you.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm dying to hear. Anybody can start. This is our just warm up exercise, so anybody can start. What were your thoughts? All right. Nobody wants to start. Group, you may have to unmute yourself. Remember, I don't want to go group by group because you may not necessarily remember your group numbers. But I'd love to hear from some of you.
I'm number 5.
Okay, yes,
And
Dr.
I'm going to start, even though honestly I don't have a clue.
There's no
But
right or wrong in this.
I recognize it's like my time as a teacher. I don't care if the student know or not. I just want them to participate. So I assume,
Right.
I'm hoping it's the same for you.
Yes.
I don't know, it looked like it's Moses that coming down from some mountain with a tablet.
Yes.
So Indira was in my group number 5, and Indira said that we must notice that there's a picture within a picture here. But me personally, I can see no connection to customer service at all. It looks like they're in a museum or they're someplace like that, and but they're just into each other. It seems to me that there's something much more exciting on the phone, than the company, between the interaction between the two of them. And what if you're in a museum, you ought to be seen. And that's it, Dr. Crick. I'm done.
That's you. Okay, thank you, Dr. Cowell, for starting us off. Others, what do you have
Dr. Crick, like a major student, you could call me Noel, please.
Yes, no. I trust I won't lose the work. Joking. Yes, go ahead.
All right, so this is Verona, and we had similar thoughts as expressed that it's actually the picture behind is just like a background picture. And these are persons hanging out, so to speak. But even though they are together, they're not communicating with each other. They're in their own worlds, and they're paying attention to something else that is probably more interesting and exciting on the phone. So they may be connected to a virtual world, but not with the person who is sitting next to them. We were just about to make the connection with customer service when we were timed out. But I see that as a customer, that, often you move into spaces that you're supposed to be served, and the reps are very distracted by other things, and you're as the customer do not get the kind of attention that you are expecting. So that is a connection that I would want to make with those ladies. In terms of the picture, I don't think the picture has many messages, but I don't think well, I suppose Moses is serving, yes, and we know the story. Perhaps if we never knew the biblical story, it would not be of no relevance to us. But that's all that it meant to me, that it was a picture behind. But I'm more concerned with the people who are sitting together. And also too, because I know about the story, that when, as the leader, you go missing, persons tend to find a way to make things happen for them, so they resorted to help to solve their own problems, take care of their own needs by putting a calf there, and even though they knew otherwise, is what is probably in the moment, what is solving their problem, that's what they resort to. So those are my thoughts. And we were having a conversation, so we were agreeing on some of these.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Can I hear from at least one other group? Or, well, listen to more, but at least one other? What did your group say? Okay, nobody wants to jump in. I'm giving you the last chance. it's not a pass
Hello.
fail. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, this is Sandra. So I was in group
Yes.
2 and there was no activity there because we weren't hearing anything. So everybody left eventually.
Oh dear.
So this is just me now. Looking
Yes.
on the picture, for me, the bench that they're sitting on says customer care. You could sit down and rest or just have a nice selfie with the picture behind you.
Yes.
So in my mind, those students are having a selfie. That's my take.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very
I
much.
think she may be young, Dr. Crick.
She may be young. Well,
And Dr. Craig,
yes.
we were saying as well that the picture is a lot happening behind them in the picture. They're taking no notice of it at all. They're just off in their own world.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I saw this picture in the New York Public Library, and I don't know if anyone here has seen it, but it's just this fabulous building. I mean, it's just awesome everywhere you look. And this is one of the paintings there, because a lot of original artwork, given by these super rich people. And I was actually taking the painting, and then I'm looking at these two young people in there, and they are just as was said earlier, they're just into their world. And thank you for that, Noel. They're not even into one another. They're into their own worlds, which are virtual. And I wanted just to introduce this to us as a way of saying that sometimes we put such wonderful things in place, but are we bearing in mind that not everyone is interested in what we have to say? I also wanted to get the diversity of views. So I didn't hear as much as I wanted, but we're just warming up. So that is fine. The diversity of views as people, thought about what did it mean to me versus what did it mean to someone else. And in a few minutes, we'll talk about the fact that yes, we do inhabit a virtual world. And this is, somebody used the word students. This is really the world in which our students work and think, and maybe some of the traditions, because there's nothing more traditional than Moses. I shared this picture, and one of my friends said to me, it's two sets of tablets in a sense, because there is Moses coming down with a tablet, and their phones are mini tablets. And I hadn't even thought about that there is still that connection that is there. So what I want to move on to now is to put up another graphic. And this time I'm going to ask you not to say anything, but just to put in the chat. And Stephanie, this is one of the ways in which you can help me, one of the times in which you can help me by letting me know what is in the chat. So as I put up the graphic, don't overthink, it's really quick. Just write what you see in the chat, okay? So let's go. Remember, you're writing, not speaking. You're seeing the screen, right? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes, we
Okay,
are.
great. Wonderful.
Should I start with the feedback?
Give us just a few more seconds.
Okay.
And then. Okay, you could start now, Stephanie.
Okay, so we have Shara, whose comment is oceanside with a big old tree.
Yes.
Then we have Janice Henlin, who says lovers, engrossed with each other and enjoying a beautiful scene. Carol White sees love and peace. Verona Henry Ferguson sees solitude.
Yes.
Sheridan Saunders sees the shape of a baby from the tree. A. Spencer, love, peace, and nature. Cherie James, a couple taking an ocean view. Scenes, we have Noel saying that he sees scenes look bleak and desolate. Scene looks bleak and desolate to me. Someone sees a baby, someone who uses the ID number, and then Benny Watson, a couple on a stroll on a bleak evening, ponder the future under the big old tree as they look out at the water.
Thank you.
And then
Yes.
G Bar says, couple standing under an old tree by the seaside. Indiana sees quiet, serene setting, peace. Ken, a moment of pause in nature. Samara, love and ocean. And Sandra, scary tree.
A scary tree. So, wow. So we have two people who saw the baby. Look again, guys. Do you see the baby now? Those people who had not seen the baby before? If not, take a look towards it. You can see the baby's head just above that little island or strip of foliage, and then you will see that the baby is like in a fetal position. There's a hand holding on to the tree, the scary tree, and you'll see the baby's feet pushed up against the tree. So why do you think I put up this graphic? And any ideas? No is the time to open your mic, sorry. Any ideas as to what this up?
It's a matter of perspectives, different perspectives. All of us are different and we see things differently.
Right. Because I mean, it's just interesting. I'm wondering if I were doing a scientific study, you know, the age of those who saw the baby versus those who saw the couples and so on. But yeah, we are looking at exactly the same picture, and we are seeing things very, very differently depending on our own perspective. But you know, in this instance, it didn't cause a quarrel, because we're all big, mature adults, and you know, we're calm in a training session. But can you imagine if we were in a different setting and we were talking at cross purposes, and you're like, baby, there is no baby. You know, you must be kind of crazy. And in another setting, it might be that it's obvious, anybody can see that it is two lovers. And then of course, there's a emotional thing that, you know, some people brought to it. The fact that it may seem scary, the fact that it may seem lonely, the fact that it may seem peaceful. So we all come with our different emotions. But what I want us to understand is that these are so deep-seated in us, and that we believe them to be true. One of the things I say maybe once a month, depending on the setting I'm in, is that people's perceptions are their reality. Now, I took the time to describe to you how you could go see the baby, because that's what the majority of us did not see. But do we take the time to say to others, okay, this is what I am seeing. Let me help you to see what I'm seeing, you know? So let me just pause if there are any comments. Remember, I don't want it to be a monologue.
Well, we have a few people who have seen the baby now.
No, they see the baby. No, they have seen it.
And you know, once they see it, they can't unsee it.
I know. But as I said, I had to help you to see it. So I guess one of the key things I like you to think about is, how can we help people to see things that we see? You know, see it our way, because we're often so intent on my way is the correct way, and you know, we often think that something is wrong with the other person because they're not seeing it our way. But both are present in the picture, and it depends on your perspective and what you're bringing to it. Ah, wow! I love a voice to read the next thing for me. So I'm just going to wait for a volunteer, or I will assign someone. This is one of my favorite quotes. Anybody?
Let me do it, Dr. Crick.
Oh, thank you.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair.
Thank you
Because
very much, Noel. Yeah, so it seems like it could have been written yesterday, right? But I told you who wrote it. Anybody know the book that he wrote it from? It is one of
is
the
a
most
Tale of Two Cities.
exactly brilliant book. If you haven't read it, please read it. I read it like every 2 years because it
Jesus.
just yeah, man.
Read
I
Glenn Mills, I haven't read it again. I have to go read it.
yeah, well,
Now I'm
incredible memory. But it is one of the most famous passages. But I thought about it because it doesn't it speak to our times right now. It was the best of times and it was the worst of times. So let's just have, as I said, I don't want it to be a monologue. Let's just have a little discussion about as we go through COVID, what makes it, I mean, the best of times in the midst of a pandemic that is killing people, you know, and 15 that the other day, how many on ventilators? Please feel free to use the chat or to speak up. So how could this possibly be the best of times? Anyone? How could this be the best of times for anyone?
You know what, Dr. Crick, I think
Mhm.
in a way it's giving us an opportunity never before to see who we are,
Ooh,
what we're really made of.
that is true. It is testing and exposing, which may or may not be a good thing. I have friends who have discovered gardening, who have rediscovered their family. I mean, early on there was this joke. Somebody says, you know, I spoke to my wife, and it turns out she's actually a really nice person. You know, so we often have moving so fast. So that's the best of times. But of course, it's the worst of times, not just because people are dying, but we think about the disruption that is occurring in our situations. So it is possible that for you, it's the best of times to work from home. For somebody else, it's the worst of times. I spoke with a friend. She WhatsApped me a couple of days ago, yesterday, and she said, you know, I was signing in for work on Wednesday, first day after back to whatever, that we went back to work. And she said, you know, imagine that my boss signed in both Monday and Tuesday. And we had a good laugh about that because her work certainly can be done from home. So, and as can his. So what would motivate him to go get a special pass to go and out to work? But you know, we concluded home is not a place he wants to work from or be at all. So for him, this could be the worst of times. It's age of wisdom. It's age of foolishness. Anybody want to take on that one?
The foolishness part, Dr. Crick.
Whichever one you want.
Well, that's enough wisdom. Holy in a lot of people. But the foolishness part is really astonishing to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm amazed at how otherwise intelligent people can reason in such a Trumpian manner. I mean, I was exposed to this because of my prior exposure to Donald. But then I see that he has a lot of followers all over the world, including Jamaica. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it manifests itself in the discussion relating to vaccines and so on. There's also the whole issue of tolerance, you know, because some of us are very impatient with people who don't believe the things that we believe. And we have had to find ways of reasoning and informing and encouraging and, you know, take it and learn a lot about perspective taking. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Stephanie, I'm hoping people are writing in the chat. I'm encouraging them if they are not. I certainly don't want it to be a monologue. Neither does it have to be a dialogue. My colleague is supporting, but I'd love to hear from others. Yes, but you know, as Noel spoke, it's yes.
Somebody was trying to come through. I heard somebody.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, hi, Anne. David
Hi.
McBean.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The epoch of incredulity
Mm-hmm.
struck at me because it's just an incredulous time.
Yes.
Right? We have so many possibilities in front of us, but at the same time, there are just so many threats.
Right.
And And even I think how we react to each other. You know, sometimes it's the small things that cause the big blow-ups.
Yeah.
And as Noel says, I think in this time, well, what I'm learning to do even more is to step back, you know, just step back and reflect, because the perspectives of everybody is strange. So for me, the vaccine, for example, it's a spring of hope. It's a season of life. For some people, it's the worst thing that has ever been. Right. And how do you bridge that gap? And I guess it's the same thing, you know, even bringing it back down to the workplace. We have to understand there's a back to work instruction that came in a couple months ago, and for some people it's like heaven. Yes, we can come back in. For others, it's what do I do with my children? So that's just some of my random thoughts about this, and that in all of this we have to remember to care for each other, because that is when it can turn into the winter of despair.
Wow, thank you so much. Yeah, and that is one of the key things that you know, it is a tale of two cities, as we said, it is from, and it was written during the French Revolution when all hell was breaking loose, which was, you know, kind of wonderful if you were a poor person, at least in the very beginning, because you're getting opportunities, and it was horrible if you were from the nobility. And when we think the other city was what was happening in London, but when we think about this, what he was depicting here is the duality that is happening. And I think that that's exactly what we're experiencing now. The vaccine is perfect for some, it is absolutely frightening for others. So in terms of adopting the paradigm and the view of others, the idea of taking a step back, you know, and understanding, because one of the things I want us to clearly think about before we go any further is we are all affected by this pandemic, because it is something that we have never gone through before, because nobody here is over 100 years old, which was the last one. We've never gone through it before. So some of us, you know, quietly go mad. Other people are you know, managing. Some people are in despair, some people are in hope, but everybody is impacted by it. And what are we bringing? What energy are we bringing into our workspace? Whether that space is physical, whether that space is virtual, what energy are we bringing in, and how does that impact on it? So it's easy to see when somebody's being very irrational and you know, quoting nonsense and so on, like, you know, 99% of those who take the vaccine dead, and you can, you know, totally dismiss those. But what about those who seem to be okay and they're not? Are we truly okay? You know, we are, as I said, we're dealing with something that is not normal, and we're trying to pretend like, oh, okay, yeah, I got this. So it is an incredibly difficult time, and we have to be self-aware of what is happening to us, and then also to take a look into the lives of others and to understand that their experience might be totally different from ours, but it is still valid in their own eyes. So again, let me pause and see if we have any comments in either the chat or if anybody wants to speak up and say something.
And just to going back to this quote, one of the thoughts I had, the juxtaposition of this age of foolishness and versus wisdom,
yes,
that we really live in a time where access to information is so much more than it has ever been. And yet there is so much misinformation as well. So at the same time, much information, but also a lot of misinformation. And that kind of juxtaposition, I find very, very curious.
Thanks for that, Janice. You're absolutely right. And if we're to harken back to the picture that I put up, you know, there you are in this beautiful building, but you have shuttered yourself into what is on your phone. So you're kind of, you know, eliminating a lot of things that you could get that might enhance your life. And yes, you're certainly correct. So that is a takeaway from us, not because we provide information means that it will be accepted. And I'm sure everybody on this call knows that, we say, oh, it's in the faculty handbook, but nobody wants to go through all 250 pages to find the one line that appeals to me, that applies to me. So, so much information, but so much misinformation, because I quicker get it from my friend. Even though it mightn't be quite right, but I can't bother go through all that is there. Any other thoughts?
I wanted to say that maybe for me, COVID has forced me to stop, to slow down, and to consider what are those things that are most important to me. So in every way, even spending money, whether I needed to do this or I focus on this, or you couldn't have access anymore to something else. And so you find out, well, you really didn't need that.
Yeah.
How you spend your time, whether you should really be spending more time with family. So, I think it really forced me to just stop and, stop and to consider everything now.
Thank you. That was Verona, right?
No, this is Sandra.
No.
Sandra. Okay, sorry.
Yes, I'll seize the opportunity.
Yes.
Yes. So as I listened to the conversations, I couldn't help but reflect on what Stephen Covey says about how one of the habits of highly effective persons is that we will seek first to understand and then to be understood. And I find that for me, in trying to deal with a roller coaster of emotions, sometimes I am only seeing things my way. And as somebody mentioned, that, you have to step back and try to understand the other person's perspective. Be a little more patient and a little more tolerant, because others are also having their challenges with their emotions, because we go through in one day so many different emotions, depending on how we are reacting to our situations. And I think one of the things that has helped me often is to try to understand where the other person is coming from. And, that helps a lot with the human relation issues that we have to contend with. And even in my own family, sometimes even the children help me to, yesterday I had a conversation with my son, and I have been thinking about it since. I just, he was just saying, Mommy, that is really how you see it, but the other person is seeing it differently. So whereas I was becoming impatient, and he's saying, Mom knows, and I have had to stop and think, and so in all our relations and interactions with others, always trying to understand where the other person is coming from is what I am taking away from this conversation.
Thank you very much. So the understanding the other person's perspective is so critical, but I think it's also you see, again, what I did with the baby versus a couple, I helped you to understand. So one of the things I actually say quite a bit to people is, help me to understand that better, because me trying to understand them without them re-explaining is sometimes still using my paradigm. And if I had the time, I'd get into the whole stuff about paradigms. But we have a particular way of seeing the world. So even when we're trying to understand people, we're still putting them within that paradigm. So when they speak from their paradigm, and this is something that Covey is very good at, speak from their paradigm, it helps us a lot. So I'm really going to encourage us when we're in our interactions to say, okay, I understand you see it this way. Explain to me why you do. And one of the kind of frustrating things about this is that it does take a little bit more time. So, you know, I've had to learn for myself the difference between spending time and investing time. So, you know, sometimes I say, I don't have the time for this. But then if I reshape again my paradigm and say, okay, I'm going to invest the time so that later things will be better, then that is what I can use to justify to myself investing that time. I don't know if that was clear, but it's just a way of thinking about spending the time, investing the time to get to know the other person's perspective, and it eases interactions going forward. Stephanie, you have anything for me?
Yes, we have Noel who had said that he was inspired and encouraged by the resilience of some people. If you go back. And then Keisha, who put it down to life and death. She says that it is the best of times as we are still alive despite the deaths and despair around us.
Yeah, everybody in this call, on this call survived something to be here. We're doing some things right, and some of us are just blessed. We don't do everything right, but we're still here. Thank you.
Dr. Crick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I can't find my raise hand feature. I apologize.
Okay, that's fine.
And I got here a little late, so I hope I'm not responding to the wrong thing. But I think that for me, and I don't know how unique I am with this, these times have taught me to appreciate the presence of people. So, and that has shaped how I now interact as well. I think I'm even probably a little more accommodating to, let's use students. So I'm an only child, I'm a loner. When I show up, I can be the life of the party, but unlike some friends of mine who pull energy from people pull energy from me. I feel very drained after any intense set of interactions. So I've always said jokingly to my friends that if I could create multiple versions of myself and I wouldn't need people, I'd be, you know, because it's draining. And I have started to feel like I'm hitting a wall with not having interactions now. So it's making me appreciate the presence of people, but it's also allowing me to empathize with those who actually need social interaction. Because if I feel this way, I can imagine how those who thrive on that must be in a dark hole. So, I mean, yeah, just looking at the quote that's on the screen, all of the above.
Yeah, that's a good insight. One of the reasons that Andrew and I get along so well is because we're so similar. So I identify with his. I actually have a term for it. I'm peopled out. You know, after, like, if I go to a conference and there's a lot of interaction, I'm like, oh, enough already, you know, after the first 20 minutes. But yeah, so I want us to recognize that we too are changing, because yeah, even those of us who had that feeling before, we realize, whoa, I kind of need some interaction. And how does that help us to get into the shoes of others who might have who might be desperately craving that? Did I see a hand? Yes, Indiana.
Thanks, and I was listening to Andrew, and my problem is the opposite.
You're the opposite. Okay.
I find I don't like being around a lot of people. I mean, if I'm there and it's work, I'll do it, fantastic. My innate nature is I like quiet solitude. I like being alone. I like being with the few people that I truly enjoy being with. And so my struggle during this time has been trying not to embrace that side of me too completely. So I'm having to force myself sometimes to interact with others.
Right.
Go do hermit. Exactly. So I am forcing myself not to embrace that side too much. Yeah. That has been my struggle during this time. I love being at home, so this is joy for me. So yeah, it's the opposite. It's very interesting.
And it is, and again, that's what Dickens wants us to understand, that we have these opposites. So as we what I want us to do in the next two slides, and not overloading us with theory, because I really want us to absorb more of what this time means. but I want us to understand that there is a challenge when we look at things differently and we don't understand that the other person's perspective is very valid. Now, sometimes people will push back and they will tell us, but in many instances they don't. So what you see in front of you is something we call the iceberg customer the complaint iceberg, because what it says to us, as you know, with all apologies, live near a hospital. So I don't know if you're hearing the siren. The top of the iceberg is all that we see, but what we know from some old research, which has proven to be rather solid over time, is that most people do not complain. And when I share this with my students, they're like, no, that's not so Jamaicans complain. And then I ask them, when last you complained, not to your friend, not on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever you use, when did you complain to the company? And it is very seldom. And what the data tells us is that one unhappy customer, for every one unhappy customer, there tend to be 25 people who are not complaining. So just let that absorb for a moment. The one person who comes and complains about something, there are 26 who 25 who are not complaining. So it's a total of 26. And then if you look to the third part, it says each of those 26 tells an average of 10 people about their experience. Now, this is where the age of this data is showing, because as we know with social media, it can be 10,000, or if you're an influencer, a whole bunch more than that. And then those people turn around and tell a whole heap more. So this inability to interact, to understand other people's perspectives, it can hurt us when we answer quickly, we answer short, we don't take the time to reflect, and it results in even one complaint. You think that that is, okay, it's just this one miserable person, internal customer or external customer. No, it's that one miserable person who has chosen to say it. And there are a whole range of reasons that we don't make a complaint, and you know them because you probably don't complain an awful lot. So then, as I said, this is the data referring to when we tell our friends, don't go to this place, don't do that class, don't whatever. But then take a look at when people you have used social media in the past, because this is where a lot of our internal customers are, because I've seen UA lecturers, for example, on social media complaining about something that happened at UA. And this is definitely where our students are. And what do they do? What are the reasons they share? To vent because they're frustrated, that's the first one, and they want the business to know and other people. Look at the next two. To vent because I'm frustrated and I want the business to know, to complain to business because I wanted the business to know and I wanted a response. So sometimes it's about response, sometimes it's just about letting other people know. Look at the fifth one down, to vent because I'm frustrated and I want other people to know. That's 30%. Different surveys, obviously, because this don't add up to 100. To warn other people so that they don't have the same problem. Now think what that would mean for our institution if they say, definitely do not, go to MSBM or FSS, because 30% of the people in this survey are saying that. Look, then there's the revenge factor. This third from the bottom, because I want the business to be damaged by the experience I had. In customer service, we call these terrorists. They want to take down your business, and that is 9%. So we have people with various reasons for wanting to vent on social media, but whatever the reason, just recognize that how quickly something can go around the world, and how therefore it is so critical that we understand people's perspectives and that we respond effectively to them. So I just wanted to share that with you, because one of the challenges all of us have is thinking that, and it's something we hear in Jamaica all the time, you're the only one to complain about that, and dismissing it. But we know that the fact that you're the only one doesn't mean To complain doesn't mean that you're the only one who feels it. You're the only one who chose to come up and say it. And those people are actually heroes because the rest of them are feeling it and they're voting with their feet, or they're going on, you know, and spreading the bad news in other ways. So, you know, as I said, this whole idea of getting it right and fixing it is very important. So let me pause again for a minute and see if we have any comments or questions.
Phil Beckford's hand is up.
Yes. I'm listening. Okay, not hearing anything. All right, maybe it was an old hand. Okay. So then
Are you hearing me now?
yes, I am.
Oh, yes, I was saying thanks again. You have touched on some of the things that are near and dear to me.
Yes.
Customer service among students. It stresses you out, but I endure the stress. I try to answer every email. People tell me that you're crazy, but I keep saying that maybe one student that I choose not to answer that needed my answer more than any other.
Yes.
And so during this COVID time, they talk you through your email. So I tell people I receive during school time about 60 to 70 emails per day, because I teach a number of courses. And so you hear from almost a number of a good amount of students. But I think it's necessary, sorry, to answer them, because sometimes you are the only hope they have of getting the information. They're not getting it from the faculty office. Not that the faculty office is not answering, but they can't get you on the phone, or they're not hearing from the departmental office because the phone systems have been down for some time in sociology. So of course they call you. It's hard for you to brush them off, and hard for me to brush them off. Yeah, and then I've had bad experience of brushing off a student, and the result wasn't good at all. As I've told many people, some of them already in this forum, that a student came to one night in Otrias at the site, said she need to talk to him. I said, but I just finished at 9 o'clock. It's pension not going, I can't talk, you know. The next message I got next day, she hung herself.
Oh my God.
Yep, she hung herself on her burglar bar. And so I've always lived with me that what if I just take a few minutes? I know it was after 9 going to 10, or going all the way to Spanish Town, but just if. So because of that, I go out of my way. I'm criticized sometimes by my own colleagues for if you brought them bad, but I have reason to brought them bad. Sad, I have reason to brought them bad, because I think that if we are student-centered, then we have to deal with their issues. We can't help everybody, but at least help as many as we can. And so that is my piece.
Thank you very much. What a tragic story. Wow. Lawrence, I saw your hand.
Morning. Orville, just on that note, I not as tragic as you, but I have faced a situation like that. But what I have done, and I'm saying this in the event that it comes up again, that sometimes you really cannot physically. And so what I've done, I have taken the liberty and given the student my number and said, listen, call me. You can call me while I'm on my way and so on. But physically, I can't be here with you. And they call and sometimes just for you to listen. And I've spent hours just listening. So rather than just walking away and say you can't, you can at least give them an option to call.
So this is for going forward, because I know for sure if Orville had ever thought anything like that, you'd have stayed there till midnight. But we can't know. That story reinforces, as I said, what is going on in people, and we don't know. So there are limits, and I do believe that we have to set boundaries on how we interact. But part of it is trying to get into other people's shows so we know when maybe we need to expand those boundaries. But again, I don't want to put guilt on anyone, because I always want to remind us that we are dealing with our own stuff. So, you know, when we put on the Superman cape, remember it's still a human body under there. So it is that balance that we need to go after. Thank you guys for sharing.
Yeah. Dr. Crick, I hear that, you see?
Mhm.
I hear my two colleagues.
Yes.
I know Lawrence better than I know Orville, as a, you know, because we're in the same department.
Right.
And I know his deep care and concern and compassion. We share things all the while. I know you too. And you know, it's not any different. But I think that the structures need to be put in place to ensure that we don't have to go to those extremes.
Yes.
Some of us do, some of us don't. And I just feel that there needs to be. One of the things that COVID has taught me is just how many problems our students have.
Yes.
They're not just numbers, they're not just this, they're people. And my people who I work with, you and them other people, insist that we respond to our students. And we do it consistently, but it's not a common thing across the university. There's a high level of indifference. And when you make the mistake of giving your number to a student, there are some that will call you. I'm either old man, for example, and I want to go to my bed by 7 o'clock. And students will start engaging me. They'll call me at that time, they'll call me later, and they will engage me on WhatsApp. At a time when I should be in my bed, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and so on. And they'll write in the middle of the night and expect response by the next day. So the matter of boundaries, I agree with you entirely. This Superman thing is not going to work. We can't help it because we are teachers, but we should not. We should insist that university puts the appropriate structures in place. University needs to be more sensitive. In other words, let me say something stupid. The university ought to be coming to this customer service seminar so that the university can understand what it means to properly serve our students. All of this bleating about student-centric and student centricity is absolute nonsense because many of us don't understand it and don't practice it at all. And it's different from pandering, to be perfectly frank. Thanks for that little blow off there. Thank you.
Thank you much. It is a challenge. The university does have, to be fair, there are a lot of support systems in place, but you know, as Orville was kind of alluding to, people often go to who they feel connected with. You know, and that can be a good thing, that can be a bad thing, but they make a connection with you for some reason or other, and then you're it, you know, like when we tag someone. But yes, that we do have to establish those boundaries, and we do have to establish some ways of interacting with people. So I see Dr. McBean, and then after that, I'm going to help us to establish maybe some structures and systems, or you're going to do that. Doc?
And maybe my comments will flow naturally into your next section.
Right.
Just my observations. We come in and the structures are not there to support the students even during the best of times.
Right.
And I know, so one of my goals as always has been to create a balance, because we're also pushing our lecturers and administrators and support people over the edge, particularly in this faculty and especially in MSBM. And it's not fair neither to the students nor to the lecturers. And I think that for me is we have to go and change to the root cause. So you have a Lawrence who, you know, who's very empathetic and probably has the strength and stamina and fortitude because of his life experiences and training to deal with students around the clock. And we don't want Lawrence to stop doing that. But for me, the deeper question is, what do we need to change so that within a reasonable time frame and with reasonable responsiveness, we can get to all of our students? My final comment, when I went to UA, we knew all our lecturers and all of our lecturers knew us. So things like advising then became naturally, or came naturally to them. But we were in classes of 40 and 50, except for first year. you know, when we're packing up 200 and 300 with only a lecturer, no TAs, how do we give good service in the first place? And so those are some of the questions that I'll put on the other side of the coin, that we must go beyond the extra mile to support students, but we also must set up the structures beyond the extra mile. And also apologies, Anne, I'm juggling between 3 meetings. So if you see me disappear or I may be on mute and not my full attention.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for letting me know.
Dr. Ann Crick.
Yes.
Dr. Ann Crick.
Yes, ma'am.
And good morning to all. I just want to say this, and if I'm saying too much, no problem, you can cut me off. But and I mean it, because there's so much to say, but I'm trying to cut it very short. Starting last year, March was one of the most difficult period that I've ever experienced, and up to now, because at the time, there was a group that was completing the program. There's supposed to be a returning set of students and a new intake. And let me tell you something, those who are supposed to finish, half of them said they don't know if they'll be able to finish because they have been, their salary reduced and all sorts of different things that comes with it. Then you have those who are supposed to be returning, they had issues also. Then those who were to come in, let me tell you something, 2/3 of them called to say they won't be able to continue because either the spouse not working, they have to take up the slack. And I felt like it was a hole at that time. It's like everything was just sinking at that time. And during that period, I had to sit down through some students who had issues to talk about. Some of them, I had to recommend them and set up appointments for them to speak to the counselor here. But there was even on different occasions, one man, he was a manager at a very popular organization. He broke down and cried and was shouting, and I had to recognize he wasn't really shouting at me, but he was at a breaking point to say that he has this deadline, he has the fees to pay, and the company want this and want that, and whatever it is. And I had several of that to deal with. So the students do go through a lot, and it's easier said than done. Say, okay, when they come, just send them on to somewhere else, because sometimes you have to give them a couple minutes to listen to them at that point, you know. And it was, and it still is, a very difficult point, because at one time I had to really pull myself away from everything, because you must remember, you know, we are here in a tourist industry. And everybody who works here is connected to the tourism industry.
Right.
So you find everybody was affected.
So just for everyone who doesn't know, she's at the Western campus. Yes.
Let me tell you, it has been a very difficult period. When you see big people break down and cry and say they have to move from where they are, they have to be cutting with somebody because their salary is this and whatever it is, and you have to be talking them through. And quite a number of persons had asked for deferral because of the issues that they have been going through. Some of them couldn't even manage it, because not everybody managed prices well at the same time. I had somebody own a gas station. She just renovated, just started. She said, Mrs. March, I have to lay off half of the persons because business low. So she's helping to do the pump. She's doing everything. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
But because of where we are.
So it is very rough, and I think, you know, many Jamaicans don't understand that when they're like, lock the borders down again. But you know, those of us who study tourism, we understand the ripple effect and the impact. So this is what I meant when I said earlier that, you know, we are going through stuff, and our customers are going through stuff. And if you notice, I'm using the customers because remember, our customers are not only students. You know, we serve one another, and when I interact with Sandra, I don't know that she's absorbing all of this from students, so that she might be more fragile than normal. So I think that that is what we all have to bring to it. The fact that, yes, there's a lot of energy out there. There are literally people who have thrived. There are literally businesses that have just, you know, if you're in a delivery business, oh, it's awesome for you because, you know, maybe even created a delivery business. So it's good for you. And there are other people whose businesses have literally folded because of the pandemic. So we're dealing with all of this, and customer care in the midst of all of this is going to be a huge challenge. But it is not something beyond us. So I'm just looking at my watch, and I'm going to change it up a little bit, Keisha, because looking at the time, I want us to probably do this as a big activity rather than a group activity, because I don't want to go over time. But I think the conversation we're having is rich, and it's really important for us to recognize that, yes, it is not a normal time. It is what Charles Dickens said. It is a time of contradictions. But no, in the midst of all of this, people's expectations are relatively stable. So what you see in front of you is something from something called ServQual, which is a scale that measures how people perceive service quality. And these 5 things that we are looking at in terms of service quality are the big 5. You know, we look for a lot of things, but it turns out that the research says they can each be categorized into these 5 categories. So I was going to have you work in breakout groups, but we're going to do it together as a group. And, you know, you're going to get this recording, of course, and this information is readily available, and you can apply it as you wish. As you see the same big 5 there again, and easy to remember, we call it the Rata Scale, because R for reliability, A for assurance, T for tangibles, and so on. When we look at these big 5, we go into a situation with expectations of each of them. How reliable will it be? How good will people be at it? What will it look like, feel like, etc.? I'll go through each of them in a minute. But we have established expectations about them. So if I say to you right now, JPS or Flow or, you know, UE, you know, just name a company, then you're already going to say in your mind, going to spend the whole day there, or, you know, unreliable, whatever it is. So that's what we mean by the expectations. But then now we have the actual, that's the orange box, the service, orange, whatever that is, the service performance, which is what the reality is when you go there. So is it going to be better than you had anticipated, than you had expected? Or is it going to be worse than you expected? Or is it going to be just what you expected? Well, as you would imagine, it is the best of all situations when it's better than you expected. Because then you have what we call in service the wow. So I'm going to give you a practical example. I saw that Hilo was doing service, was doing delivery, and I didn't want to get into, I'd been away, I just come back home, and I came back home just into lockup time. So I said, no, I'm not in that madness in the supermarket. So I ordered from them. When I placed my order online, they wrote me back to say, oh, it's not going to be possible for today because, you know, we just have so many orders. Will tomorrow be okay? So I was like, yeah, because, you know, larder is not empty, so that is fine. And then later in the afternoon, they called me to say, all right, so we don't have this, we have that instead. And I was like, okay, answer their questions for the substitutes. And I said, am I going to get, that means I'm going to get it today? And they're like, yeah. And of course, you know what that was? That was a wow, because they had said to me that I couldn't get it till the next day. And that's where we say that we want to under promise and over deliver. it's not a technique you use just to try to dazzle customers. But what you never want to do is say, I'm going to send you back that email, I'll respond to you by today. And then you're not responding till tomorrow. So as Orville says, everybody here can say that, we have had the email just go through the roof. But you need to manage that expectation so that if you say to people, all right, because students do go to bed, do write you something at 9 o'clock, and at 5 o'clock in the morning when they get up, they're looking for an answer, like you don't sleep. But you need to manage that expectation ahead of time to say, look, it's going to be 24 to 48 hours before. And then you try not to exceed that 48 hours because if you say 24 hours and just by chance you happen to do it in 8, that's a wow. If you say 24 hours and it takes 26 hours, then that's a service failure. So to some extent, we have the opportunity to establish the benchmarks by which people are going to look at us. So if you say, this is the best chicken that anybody has ever eaten in Jamaica, wow, you set yourself a high standard and you're going to have people go and say, well, this ain't all that much. So you want to set expectations that you can reach, and then you want to consistently deliver on them. So that is what this chart is saying. So now I'll just go into them and then allow us to, see if we have any questions or so on. I know for some people this is kind of like a repeat. So we have the reliability. Reliability is what we know it is. So I put that graphic there. Are you going to be able to catch me? Can I depend on you to be able to catch me? Frankly, that wouldn't be me in the, as the girl, no, not depending on anybody that much. But no, the fun and joke aside, there are some people who, are absolutely dependable. Like I have a contractor who does anything that I need doing in my house. He's not the cheapest, but I know if he says Tuesday at 9 o'clock, he's coming through that gate at Tuesday, calling me on Tuesday to say I'm at the gate or calling me to say I'm going to be late. So reliability is something that people like, and it's something that we're really, really weak on in Jamaica. It means that we're dependable. It means that we're trusted. So the exercise that I wanted you guys to do would be to have gone into your groups and think about how we can be reliable in our own jobs. So I will just give you an example, and you can think of some more for your particular space within UWI. For me, it is saying office hours. Office hours are, 2 to 4 on a Tuesday. Then I am there, whether virtually or physically, 2 to 4 on a Tuesday. And that, people are not knocking or checking in and I'm not there, right? I've said to my students, if I am more than 5 minutes late for a class and I haven't sent a message, then you better call the police because something is wrong, right? Because I think that reliability is so important. So within the context of your job, what would reliability look like? What would it feel like? Because that is one of the 5, the big 5, as I like to call them, that people are looking at, that they can trust us at UE, that we're not going to do a bait and switch and change up the rules on them. We're going to open at 9 if we say we're opening at 9, and 9 don't really mean 10 past 9, etc. Assurance, the A in Rata, is about inspiring confidence, letting people know that we know what we're doing. So, I like when I go into a doctor's office, for example, that I see their certification, I see that they're doing continuing education and so on, because I know, therefore, it makes me feel that that doctor actually knows his or her craft. We have the necessary know-how. One of the things I hear about UWI is that, somebody will talk to person A and get this information, then they will talk to person B and get a different set of information and so on. So that weakens assurance, because am I to believe A, B, or C? Which one is true? So when we really know our rules, our policies, our procedures, it enhances the feeling of assurance, right? Inspires confidence in people. the T is about tangibles. So I thought tangibles was interesting in, because if you notice, well, or you didn't notice it, the only thing that people are looking for, this is the only thing you can touch and feel in all of the 5 that I'm sharing with you. So it says that the way that we show up psychologically and so on is the most important thing, because there's only one thing about feeling and touching. So does our physical appearance support our mission? So people aren't walking into our office now, but look at what they're doing. They're going online. So I want to big up people like Stephanie and so on who have revamped our website, because their interaction is through our website. I haven't done a lot. I mean, I've been on it since it's been changed. I haven't done a lot with it, but I'm hoping that it is designed from the outside in, meaning from the outside in, meaning that how users use it, rather than the way we tend to at UWI a lot, from the inside out. So do the tangibles reflect the needs? You know, we've used the term customer centric, you know, so do you go into an office and there's proper seating? For example, when we're meeting in the real world, do we support, I put our mission there, to be an excellent global university rooted in the Caribbean. So what does that mean for a department office? What does it look like? So when I was heading my department way back when, I had to share with the cleaning ladies, you know, we had some discussions about the bathrooms, which are always a sore point, the student bathrooms. And they said to me, you know, the bathrooms, the student them do this and that and the nasty and the blah, blah, blah. And I understood that that was a reality, but I also had to say to them, okay, we have an MBA program. Our MBA program takes place here at UWI. We have master's program. Do you know where the competitors are having their programs? And I know because I did some work for UCJ as an assessor. I said they're meeting at the Pegasus Hotel. Do you know, can you imagine what their bathrooms look like? And can you imagine that these are our bathrooms? Because to help them to understand that the tangibles matter. I understand the frustration that you clean the bathroom at 7:30 and then at 8 o'clock, just one nasty person makes it look horrible. But the fact is that for the person who comes in after that nasty person, that is the experience they're happening. So do we look like excellence? How can we convey professionalism and excellence in the physical space, in the virtual space? I'm sorry. So you look on that second one. You know, if I'm talking to somebody whose room looks like that, it says to me, wow, you know, organized, ready to show up for business. If you know things are falling over the place, it says the opposite. Do we use visual aids because we don't have the opportunities that we might have in the physical space? So that is about tangibles, and they're really, really important because they kind of sum up for people. So I'm going to use for you the example I use with my class all the time, that I say to them, what does the airline crew wear? What do pilots wear? And generally, as we know, they kind of have this military style thing with epaulets, and the airline crew is very, you know, organized in what they wear and very uniform, etc. So I said to them, do you think that it impacts the pilot? Pilot could show up in jeans and a t-shirt and flip-flops and fly that plane, because he's not flying it with his uniform. He's flying it, you know, he or she is flying it with their knowledge. But the fact is, none of us would want to go 31,000 feet up in the air with somebody in flip-flop and shorts, right? Because we'd be like, wow, the uniform conveys to us that you are professional, you're military, you're well-trained, etc. So we need to convey that with the way that we appear, the way that our settings appear, etc. Empathy, we all are familiar with what empathy is. And from our discussions today, I understand that it's so much more critical. One more time, I'm going to say, we're all going through stuff. I'm going through stuff. Stephanie is going through stuff. Noel is going through stuff. The students are going through stuff. If we never needed it before, we need empathy now. Emotional intelligence is what this is all about. Bring that to the situation. Sense the feelings of others. So, you know, sometimes you say to somebody, say, you're okay, you're good now. And they say, yeah, they're not. Their body language tells you, even when we're face to face, even when we're online, you can hear the cue. They're not. So you need to stop and say, no, it doesn't sound. You have a question. How can I help? How can I make it clearer? Because we need to get good at sensing the feelings of other people. And then the final one is
Dr. Crick?
Yes.
There's a call for you to explain the difference between empathy and sympathy.
Okay, all right.
In customer service.
Okay, so the way we often do it, sympathy is about understanding the needs of others. Empathy is about acting on it. So for me to say, oh, wow, I can imagine how she feels because, you know, her parents are in hospital with COVID. Empathy is to say, okay, and if it were me, I would want someone to do A, B, C, to say G, H, I, etc. So that's the difference. So we just don't want to say, yeah, man, wow, that must be rough, and move on to think, well, how can I do something? And that's where, again, the golden rule kicks in. Do unto others as we'd like them to do unto me. So we have to think through that a little bit. What does it mean in the space? And I don't want to put a guilt trip on everybody that we must always do everything ourselves. We work in an institution with resources. So that is why it's so important for us to know those resources and say, here is what you can do. You're not going to call the health center. Can I email someone and ask them to email you back? And so on, whatever it is. I know they're very careful about people's privacy, but just think about what it is that we can do to assist people, because we cannot take on everything ourselves. So I don't know if I answered that question, but the person can ask me back if I didn't. And then the final one is responsiveness. So one of the big things about responsiveness has to do with speed of response, obviously, right? But it's more than that. It is actually dealing with a concern. So I put up this graphic because this is somebody who's like, yes, you got it. You know, when we feel heard and understood, that is half the battle won. Because it's not student-centric, I forget who said it. It's not just meaning that, okay, you just lay over and say, yeah, whatever you want. You want a degree without even coming to class, awesome, you can get that. No, it doesn't mean that, but it means by saying, okay, I hear you. I hear what your needs are. I even hear why you have those needs. How can I assist? You know, so I like what it's about, establishing some intimacy. And I like how T.D. Jakes says it. T.D. Jakes says intimacy is into me seeing. So seeing into that individual and recognizing what it is that is going to be important. So how can I be responsive to them? So we went through that really fast, but those are the things: the reliability, the assurance, the tangibles, the empathy, and the responsiveness. Those are the 5 big things. If we can manage expectations and if we can over deliver on them, or at the very minimum, deliver what people expect, deliver what we say we're going to do, then half the battle is won. It's not easy because one of the challenges we face, and Noel kind of alluded to that, is that often it's not totally dependent on us. There's a whole slew of people who have to make things happen so that we can make things happen too. But, you know, I can't fix every problem. And that, you know, that's a little bit beyond my pay grade. But then, even then, when I can't go on to approve students because I haven't been granted that ability, I can still respond to them to say, I see your request, but I can't do it now, but I have seen it. You know, and it's more work, but if we are customer centric, then these are some of the things that we would be doing. So that was our exercise, and I will wrap now. And you know, you're free to ask me other questions, but I want to honor the time. with leaving this quote by one of my favorite persons who no longer inhabits the planet, but her work remains, Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So, as I said, when we look at what people's expectations are for service quality, only one of them has to do with what we spend a lot of time on, making sure that the space is nice and that the book look good and all of those things. The other four are about how you deliver, how you make me feel, how you connect with me, and how you respond when there is a problem. So that's what Maya, if I could take her out of context, is saying. How did you make me feel? So that is a challenge that I would leave with everyone right now. I thank you guys for staying to the bitter end. Those of you who did it, I understand we're all multitasking, but I hope that you did get something. And in the chat, I'd love you to just share one takeaway, something that you learned, something that you thought about differently, something that what's critical to me that you will do differently. So here endeth the reading, here endeth the lesson, or whatever you want to call it. But I am open, if you want to stay on and ask questions. I know my time is officially up, but I know I wouldn't have been able to answer any burning questions that you might have. So I guess I could say you're free to go at any stage, but you're also free to ask me any questions that you might have. But please, before you go, leave something in the chat about, because I think it might benefit others. And this will be taped, so it's being taped. So maybe somebody who couldn't attend will look at it later. Something that you learned, something that you thought about differently, something that you will do differently. Okay,
And
so
I see
I'm
Verona had her hand up before me.
Okay, yes, Verona.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Crick, for this stimulating presentation. And I still, it's like I was expecting more sort of feeling, but I realized that there was a big focus on the external customer in this presentation. So I'm looking forward to the part 2 when you will focus on the internal customer. I recently got an insight about how the internal customer perceive their experience within the institution, that it has a big impact on how the external customer, how they make the external customer feel. And I think that is a big part of what needs to happen as we, kind of change the script a little bit about customer service. So I'm looking forward to the part 2 of the presentation.
Look like you're hiring me. Thank you very much, Verona. Yes, so the data tells us for sure that internal customer service, that is a service profit chain, which is like the foundation of what we train in, how we train in customer service, says that there is a direct link from internal to external customer service. But it's not an overlook, because the point is that it should be seamless. There is not one rule that if Dr. Cowell is serving the Department of Behavioral Science unit, our unit, there's not one rule for that, and then there's a separate rule for dealing with students. The fact is that these things apply, the strategies and the ways that we interact apply to everybody, internal customers and external customers. That is why I've been stressing repeatedly that we're all going through stuff. So you need to recognize that, yes, your students and the parents and everybody is going through stuff in the way that Sandra explained so well, but you also need to recognize that your colleague is going through stuff. So I wouldn't want to have that disconnect as to like they're two different ways. We have to learn, one of the things we say in customer service, everybody is serving someone else. So whether you're in back office, in the bursary, trust me, if I didn't see that pay advice coming in, that my check is in my account, money is in my account, I would not be happy. And yes, it's going to affect the experience that I'm going to give to people. So we need to be aware that, yeah, it's going to be late, talk to me, right? For the grade, I see some, Indiana said something about grade, or Grace said something about grades. The grades are going to be late for the students, talk to them. Same concept. Hope I answered the question. Indiana, you're up.
Yes, thank you very much, Anne, for the presentation, and really, really good points. Sometimes you think you know these, but it's good to be reminded, and especially at the start of the semester. I was wondering if anybody has had this experience when you're talking about students complaining and then the feeling. I have a few experiences where students write to say, how are you doing this? And I found that is usually their opener to you then asking them how they are doing. So it's not that they come to complain. They come and they ask, how are you? How are you doing? How are you coping? And then once you get a grip to what's happening, that opens up for them to then say what is happening with them. And I found this approach very interesting. So even now, I'll sometimes, from a particular student who's no longer a student, I'll get a message, how are you, miss? And I know right away what she wants. She wants to talk.
Right,
so I find that an interesting approach as well.
Yes. Well, again, and it's a challenge, but sometimes we're the only person in their life who they that's why I said people latch on to particular individuals, and you never know why. I had a student who I gave counseling to in terms of grades, and then every semester religiously he would show up. He would tell me what his GPA was, how he's doing, how he's implemented what I had said, and then he was passing me on to other generations of students because that was a connection that was made. So yeah, we're important to people, and they're going to reach out to us in different ways for us to be able to do it. And I'm thinking of Paulette, who would probably say to us, let's structure, Paulette Henry, let's structure that in to the way that we maybe it's 5 minutes at the beginning of class, maybe it's 5 minutes after class, to recognize that sometimes they do have needs that we can meet. I don't know, as I said, sometimes we invest.
Dr. Crick, Andrew want to find out if that is him. It could very well be him,
My lips are sealed.
Oh, your other son, you have another one. I won't say anything about him too.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some of the comments. Find the time to respond to students, colleagues. Lawrence says, no matter the degree of the response. Yeah, and these are some of the takeaways. I resolve to ensure that when our key stakeholders interact with me, they'll remember the experience. That is a good one. Boy, Debbie don't look work for me. Debbie suggesting departments that could benefit from this. Thank you, Benny, for saying that you will introduce the rater. Yeah, and students do say thanks. Students do come and say thanks, and I love that.
Yeah, occasionally they write an email after they've done something. They write and say thanks. And I normally tell them that, I compliment them on how well brought up they were, and tell them I heal up their mother for me.
Well, in the Bible, Jesus healed how many biblical scholars remind me, and only one came back. So we should be used to that, but hug up those when you get it, because I actually have something online in my email that I call my brag book. And when I get those wonderful things, I put them into my brag folder, because the times when you want to scream, you can go back and remind yourself that you're not all that horrible. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, guys.
And thank you very much, Dr. Crick.
You are very
Andrew
welcome.
Spencer
Dr. Crick, that's
should give you a vote of thanks now. Come in, Andrew.
But that's not a setup at all.
I don't think you're chairing the session. Are you chairing the session, Noel? I don't think you are.
Apparently, it's Stephanie work. This is sponsored by put on by the faculty office. So I think Stephanie may have that covered.
Yes, I do.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, colleagues, if you have no further comments, I'd just like to offer a vote of thanks, just to thank Dr. Crick. Thank you first for coming out and sharing in this wonderful experience. Thanks for an informative workshop, Dr. Crick. I don't know if it was your strategy, but like Verona, I think you left us wanting more, and you have given us a lot to consider. So like the photo, you have charged us with taking our students on that journey so that they can see what we see. So we didn't see a baby before, they didn't see the baby, we saw the baby, help them, guide them, hold their hands so that they can see that baby with us. Consider how we deliver our services, how we connect, how we make others feel, and how we convey professionalism and excellence within our sphere of control. Because for some of us, we think we don't have a lot of influence, but once you have an ability to respond to an email, you can change somebody's perception of their day. And that is important. But in all of this, our students' expectations don't change. For all that we are going through, we have to consider self-care. We cannot neglect our self-care. I empathize with Sandra when she spoke, because I don't know if it's because the students are not coming in, but what I notice is that they are uninhibited in how they express themselves in their emails. They tell you everything. They tell you about what has happened with their family, how they're affected, their mental health. Everything is out there laid bare, and you sometimes you read those emails and you just have to sit back and take a breather. It's a lot. So don't neglect your self-care, colleagues. Everybody's going through stuff. That's what Dr. Crick said, and we know that that is true. Manage expectations and learn how to separate the issues of your students by balancing your work with your personal obligations. That's just my summary. Just to thank you guys again for coming. This is the first in our series. As you can look on the screen, you'll see that we have a Microsoft Outlook session coming up. And this is just to help you to go beyond what you know about Microsoft Outlook to see what else, what are the other features that you see there and overlook every day, how those can help you to enhance your communication via email. So thanks again for coming, and you guys have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thanks. Bye, everybody. Please stay safe.